Lin Chia was stunned and immediately withdrew. Mortal divine domain. As the pale golden domain disappeared, and Qingyu's body finally relaxed, beads of sweat slid down from his temples, and his face looked even more haggard than before. Pain? How could it be painful? Lin Chia's eyes were filled with confusion. Mortal divine domain had no offensive properties. Even if it couldn't cure Qingyu's illness, it shouldn't cause pain. And Qingyu shook his head. I don't know, it just made my head hurt a lot. Has your physical condition improved at all? It doesn't seem so. Seeing this, Lin Chia sighed helplessly. It appeared that mortal divine domain was also ineffective. They had tried all possibilities and he was completely out of options. We can only wait for the three heavenly venerable to return from the mist and ask them. Lin Chia's gaze turned toward the horizon, wondering what the situation inside the mist was like now. The moon. On the gray-white creviced surface, Michael's statue-like figure stood in the center of a massive crater. Suddenly, as if sensing something, he raised his head to look into the distance. The earth, shrouded in gray mist, slowly moved across the lunar sky. The sun's rays illuminated the edge of the earth, and a touch of dawn light fell upon the barren ground. Three Taoist figures unhurriedly emerged from it. Michael saw this scene and a look of surprise appeared on his face. All three heavenly venerable of Great Xia visiting the moon at once is a first. Michael's hand gripping the golden holy sword did not loosen. He looked in the direction of the approaching Taoists, his deep voice resonating in the minds of the three heavenly venerable. The primordial heavenly venerable, walking at the front, smiled slightly. We have come to discuss an important matter. Michael seemed to guess what it was about. Regarding Cthulhu? Correct. The spiritual treasure heavenly venerable's lips moved slightly, his voice entering Michael's ears as if whispering something. After listening, Michael fell into deep thought. It's quite risky. Indeed it is. The spiritual treasure heavenly venerable paused. But if we don't take risks now, once the key to the gate and chaos return, Earth will no longer be able to resist the Cthulhu system. Why are you all so convinced that the key to the gate and thus will return? Confusion appeared in Michael's eyes. Kiss has been missing for thousands of years and may not come back at all. The key to the gate has fallen into death slumber, making its return even more unlikely. Why are you all in such a hurry? The three heavenly venerable exchanged glances and fell silent simultaneously. After a long while, the spiritual treasure heavenly venerable finally spoke, saying something to Michael that immediately made his expression turn solemn. This matter is quite complex. Since we now have an opportunity to act against the black goat, we should not miss it, the primordial heavenly venerable said seriously. Michael pondered for a moment, then nodded slightly. Very well. Seeing Michael agree, the three heavenly venerable raised their hands in salutation. In that case, we shall begin preparations. The three heavenly venerable turned and left, transforming into three streaks of light that cut through the dark void, disappearing into the misty earth. Several days later, clang. Blades collided in the air and two figures bounced away from each other. Lin Chia stabilized himself in midair and landed on the hard training ground, his eyes fixed on Qin Han opposite him. Qin Han, gripping a straight sword, also retreated several steps, his expression extremely serious. After a brief pause, the two figures charged toward each other like lightning again. The straight swords collided rapidly in midair, with dazzling sparks continuously bursting forth. So powerful. Li Jinjin and her two companions sat on chairs at the edge of the training ground, watching the brilliant swordplay, and couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. Beside them, Fang Mo watched with rapt attention, afraid to miss even the slightest detail. Lu Baoyu gripped the handle of the straight sword at her waist, looking eager to try. Can such terrible damage be caused by sword techniques alone, without using any spiritual power or forbidden domains? Sword techniques alone certainly wouldn't be enough, Fang Yimou said. Besides sword techniques, one needs almost divine physical capabilities. Otherwise, no matter how good your swordsmanship is, it's just a mortal's skill. Look at Master Qie, each strike contains terrifying power. Even without a sword, one palm strike could shatter this entire courtyard. Truly monstrous. No wonder Captain Qin has been on the defensive the whole time. Captain Qin is already doing his best. It's nothing impressive. Lu Baoyu disdainfully looked away, gazing at her own straight sword, and said firmly, "When I reach their age, I'll be even stronger than them." Fang Yimou ignored Lu Baoyu's words and seemed to remember something. "By the way, is there any news from Su Zhe and Su Yuan?" "Yes," Li Jinjin smiled. "After receiving our invitation, Sister Su Yuan was very happy and said she would bring Su Zhe over immediately. As for Su Zhe, he seems to be very afraid of such high-risk work, but in the end he still came with his sister." "That's good. With them we'll have 5 people." Li Jinjin thought for a moment. "Why don't we bring in Ding Chongfeng too? That would make 6 people." "Too weak, insufficient potential," Lu Baoyu said quietly. Although Lu Baoyu put it rather harshly, that is indeed the reason, Fang Yimou said helplessly. "The Su siblings each have their strengths, but Ding Chongfeng is more balanced, or rather, ordinary. If he joins rashly, it would put him in danger. Let's decide after the Su siblings arrive." While the 3 were talking, the match on the training ground had already been decided. Lin Qie twisted his body in midair, his straight sword trailing after images, striking Qin Han's sword back at an extremely tricky angle. The terrifying force directly knocked the blade from his hand, sending it spinning dozens of times in the air before firmly embedding itself in the wall. Qin Han looked at this scene and smiled somewhat bitterly. "You're simply a monster. I always thought my sword skills were quite good, but I didn't expect to lose so quickly." "It's not about sword skills. Our sword techniques are actually quite similar in level. I'm just a bit faster and stronger." "Well, in any case, thank you for practicing with me." "No need to thank me. I've been itching for action during this vacation, and having an opponent is a good thing." Lin Qie smiled and walked off the training ground with Qin Han, returning to the center of the courtyard. "By the way, is there any news from headquarters about that monster from the other day?" Lin Qie asked, as if suddenly remembering. "Not yet," Qin Han shook his head. "This creature isn't in the Night Watchman's database, so they can only search through archival texts. However, since we've confirmed it's a creature from the Cthulhu mythology and I've provided a sketch of its appearance, we should get results soon." "Physical sketch?" Lin Qie was stunned. "There's such a thing?" "Yes, I saved it on my phone, let me show you." Qin Han took out her phone, opened a photo and handed it to Lin Qie, whose expression immediately became strange. If Qin Han hadn't thoughtfully turned the photo right side up before handing it to him, Lin Qie wouldn't have been able to tell that the thing that looked like a large fly was supposed to be. The messy lines gathered together couldn't be said to resemble the monster from that day. It would be more accurate to say they were completely unrelated. "Are you sure the people at headquarters can recognize this thing?" Lin Qie couldn't help but criticize. "Just these few crooked lines, isn't it too abstract?" Qin Han smiled sheepishly. "My drawing skills aren't very good. This is already my best effort." "Never mind, I'll draw one and send it over later. Although it won't be much better than yours, at least the outline will be clearer." Lin Qie sighed. Lin Qie said goodbye to everyone and returned to his temporary residence, where Chao Yuan was sitting alone on the sofa watching TV. "Where's Qing Yu?" "Jiang Er is pushing his wheelchair, they're sunbathing in the backyard." "Did Dr. Li's medicine arrive?" "It came last night. He took a few pills, but they don't seem to have any effect. After taking them for a while longer, who knows if they'll work." Chao Yuan sighed. "Qie, I don't think this is working." "What?" "Although we're keeping him company, Qing Yu has still been rather depressed lately. This morning, Jiang Er secretly told me that he got up in the middle of the night again to try using unique solution, and ended up with a headache all night. Hearing this, Lin Chia sighed helplessly. He had anticipated Qingyu would react this way. After all, Qingyu was the deputy captain of Night Curtain, and now that he had lost his legs and couldn't use his forbidden domain, he must feel incredibly frustrated. This outwardly gentle and mild-mannered man was actually very stubborn with himself. He wouldn't accept such an absurd and cruel reality. Lin Chia walked to the back door and glanced into the yard. Qingyu looked even more haggard than yesterday. So what do you think we should do? Perhaps we could try to divert his attention? Chao Yuan tentatively suggested. He stays in this small house every day, naturally unable to escape the shadow of his after-effects. If we could shift his focus from his condition to something else, it might improve both his mentality and physical condition. You have a point. Lin Chia pondered thoughtfully. How about taking him to stay at the Beijing station for a while? It's going to get very lively there soon, which should attract his attention. Before Chao Yuan could respond, Lin Chia rejected his own idea. No, that won't work. Fang Mo and the others are forming a new team, which will definitely trigger his memories and put more pressure on him. It's best to avoid anything related to Night Watchers, Great Xiao, or the Mist. Let me think about this. Lin Chia paced back and forth for a long time, unable to think of anything that could both attract Qingyu's attention and bring him joy to relieve his pressure. Chao Yuan had no good suggestions either. With no other choice, Lin Chia could only sink his consciousness into the god's mental hospital to seek inspiration. Azu. Lin Chia walked down the corridor and tapped Azu, who was crouching stealthily in the kitchen. Azu was startled and almost cried out. He quickly covered his mouth with one hand while hiding half a pastry behind his back with the other, still rapidly chewing something in his mouth. Oh, it's the director. Azu mumbled indistinctly, then forcefully swallowed before speaking. Do you need something? What are you doing? I was just inspecting the kitchen's hygiene. Lin Chia looked at the pastry crumbs at the corner of his mouth but didn't expose him. Instead he asked, Where's Li Yifei? Manager Li? He's inspecting the staff dormitory. I'll go call him for you. Azu quickly ran out of the kitchen, stuffing the remaining half of the pastry into his mouth and disappearing in a flash. Soon after, Li Yifei walked over briskly. Chia, did you need me for something? Nothing important, just wanted to chat. That's rare. Wait, I'll have someone bring some tables and chairs. Let's talk in the courtyard. By the way, they tried making some peach shortbread cookies this morning, and there are plenty left. Li Yifei went into the kitchen and felt around in a cabinet, then paused in surprise. He suspiciously pulled out his hand, looking at the half-peach cookie that remained, with a clear set of small tooth marks on it, and grumbled, Damn it, which little thief stole my cookies again? If I find out, I'll break their legs. It's fine, I already ate before coming here. Lin Chia waved dismissively. By the way, why did you start making peach cookies? I was just bored. Remember when we made a cake for my birthday last time? I figured I had some talent in cooking, so I tried making something with them in the kitchen, and look, I actually succeeded. Li Yifei stood with his hands on his hips, declaring confidently, Chia, next time you must try them. These peach cookies taste really good. As he listened to Li Yifei's chatter, something suddenly flashed through Lin Chia's mind. What did you just say? I said the peach cookies taste good. Before that. Oh, I have a talent for cooking. Before that. I was bored and then made a cake for my birthday. What's worth repeating about that? Birthday. Lin Chia murmured these two words as if something had occurred to him, his eyes suddenly brightening. He grabbed Li Yifei's shoulders, startling him. What's wrong? Li Yifei. Lin Chia looked into his eyes and said seriously, Do you still remember what I promised you? Go to school. Hearing these three words, Chao Yuan and Qingyu and Jiang Er were all stunned. That's right. Lin Chia nodded slightly. Come to think of it, and Qingyu and I didn't even finish high school before forming our team. Now that the situation in Great Xia has stabilized and we have vacation time, rather than sitting around doing nothing every day, why not go experience school properly? Seeing Lin Chia's gaze, Chao Yuan seemed to guess his intention and nodded repeatedly. Yes, yes. That's a good idea. But, we're already 23, how can we go back to high school? And Qingyu couldn't help asking. Who said anything about high school? Lin Chia leaned back in his chair unhurriedly, smiling as he said, We're going to Beijing University. What did you say? Inside the Qinan Gate Command Center, Left Qing looked up with a strange expression. They want to go to Beijing University? That's what Captain Lin said, Min Junliang replied, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Left Qing leaned back in his chair, pondering for a moment and muttered, Could it be for An Qingyu? He thought for a moment, then turned to the white-clad figure beside him. Dr. Li, you've personally examined An Qingyu's condition. What do you think? Dr. Li slowly replied, An Qingyu's condition is still unclear. Although there is indeed the possibility mentioned by the great Xia god, nothing can be determined now. Perhaps we need to wait a bit longer. If he goes to Beijing University at this time, will it cause negative effects? Based on my current speculation, there will be some impact, but with Captain Lin and his team protecting him, the problems shouldn't be too serious. Dr. Li pondered for a moment. However, to be safe, it's best to arrange for a few people to secretly guard them just in case. Left Qing's brows furrowed slightly, seemingly still hesitant. Actually, letting him go to Beijing University is a good thing, Dr. Li continued. That's the kind of life people their age should have. Experiencing another world might help change his mindset. Hearing this, Left Qing finally nodded slightly. Since Dr. Li says so, let them go. Junliang arranged special admission student identities for them to enroll with the new students, and prepare separate accommodations near the school. Don't arrange surveillance nearby, they'll see through such small tricks immediately. Find a few night watchers around their age to blend into the school and monitor their movements. Yes. Also, Left Qing paused, report this matter to the Heavenly Court. Yes. Min Junliang turned and left. In the command center, only Left Qing and Dr. Li remained. University, huh? Left Qing sighed, a hint of longing appearing in his eyes. These kids really do need a good rest. Dr. Li put his hands in his white coat pockets and slowly said, If things develop as the Heavenly Venerable predicted, then this period might be their last happy time. I hope they cherish it. Beijing City. The autumn wind was desolate as Lin Chia and his companions walked along a stone path covered with maple leaves, slowly stopping before a closed gate. We're here. This is the residence the commander prepared for you, a logistics department member explained. Considering your special circumstances, it's not appropriate for you to live in dormitories with other students, so we specifically chose this courtyard house. It's about 2 to 3 kilometers from Beijing University, in a very quiet location where few people come. Lin Chia's gaze swept the surroundings. The place was on a small suburban hill surrounded by bright red maple forests. It was indeed quiet, a rare secluded spot in the bustling city. Looks nice, Chao Yuan couldn't help but praise. At least better than where we used to live. Please thank Commander Left for us, Lin Chia said with a smile. Commander Left said that since the property rights aren't with the night watchers, it can only be considered a rental, with the rent deducted from Captain Lin's salary. Lin Chia. Please go in and have a look, the logistics staff member said, clearing his throat after seeing Lin Chia's smile freeze on his face, and unlocked the main door. The somewhat old courtyard gate made a dull creaking sound as it opened, revealing a spacious courtyard buried in fallen leaves. The compound was indeed large, with 6 rooms. Its exterior design was simple yet elegant, complementing the surrounding maple leaf scenery like the dwelling of a reclusive hermit. A fish pond sat in the center of the courtyard, covered with a thick layer of fallen leaves, appearing to have been neglected for a long time. And Qingyu, sitting in his wheelchair, slowly moved toward the center of the courtyard. He curiously examined the house before him, but when his peripheral vision caught the maple tree in the corner and the simple stone table beneath it, he suddenly froze. "What's wrong?" Jiang Er, who was beside him, noticed his unusual expression and asked with confusion. And Qingyu's gaze scanned the courtyard inch by inch, his expression gradually becoming complex. "Nothing, nothing. This place has been abandoned for a long time, so it looks rather messy, but once cleaned up the scenery is quite nice," the logistics staff member spoke again. He took out several documents from his briefcase and handed them to Lin Chia. "All your enrollment materials are here. You're already half a month late for Beijing University's new student enrollment, but since you're special admission students, it shouldn't be a big problem. Student IDs, enrollment handbooks, meal cards and everything else are included. You should study them carefully and report to the school tomorrow if possible. If you encounter any issues with daily life, you can contact me directly." After giving some brief instructions, the logistics staff member bid farewell and left. Lin Chia looked at the 4 sets of enrollment materials in his hand and couldn't help but smile. "I never thought I'd have the chance to step into a university campus in this lifetime. Who would have thought?" Chao Yuan curiously reached out his hand. "Where are my materials? I want to see what the admission letter looks like." This one is yours. This is Qingyu's and this is mine." Lin Chia distributed Qingyu's and Chao Yuan's materials, then looked apologetically at Jiang Er. "Sorry Jiang Er, your situation?" And Qingyu turned to look at her, guilt appearing in his eyes. Jiang Er had no physical form, so she couldn't openly enter the school. He had promised to make her a new body before, but in his current state how could he fulfill that promise? "It's fine, I didn't want to go to school anyway." Jiang Er smiled slightly. "I can just hide beside Qingyu. If you fail any exams, just let me know. I'll hack into the academic system and change your grades. Isn't that more interesting than being a student?" "That's true. With Jiang Er around, we can walk with our heads high at school." Chao Yuan nodded in agreement. He opened the documents in his hand and took out an admission letter. The letter was made of soft material with a bright red cover. A gold-plated school emblem was stamped in the center, with the words Beijing University written below. He opened the cover and read word by word. "Student Chao Yuan, you have been admitted to the philosophy major in the School of Humanities. Please report to the school on August 29, 2025, with this admission letter." As his voice trailed off, Chao Yuan paused, then looked up at Lin Chia with a strange expression. "Philosophy?" "That's right." Lin Chia shrugged. "Let me ask you, how much of the high school math do you still remember?" "I never went to high school." Chao Yuan grimaced. "I remember everything. But," and Qingyu sighed bitterly. "That's perfect then." Lin Chia clapped his hands. "Advanced mathematics isn't difficult, but our situation is special. It's better to avoid it if possible. In the philosophy department at Beijing University, first-year students only need to take Introduction to Philosophy, Chinese philosophy, logic and argumentation, and then choose one from Advanced Mathematics B, Advanced Mathematics D or Classical Chinese. In other words, we can avoid the Advanced Mathematics course." "That's really great." Chao Yuan's eyes lit up. Puff. Jiang Er couldn't help but laugh beside them. "Jiang Er, what are you laughing at?" Chao Yuan asked. "The mighty Nightfall squad of Great Xia, who isn't afraid of outer gods, is afraid of mathematics?" Jiang Er said, trying to hold back her laughter. And Qingyu opened his admission letter and, just like Chao Yuan, was accepted into the philosophy department. He curiously took out the enrollment instructions and the principal's message, reading them carefully. "Old Chao, clean up the house." "Why am I cleaning again? I have something to do." Lin Chia looked at the last admission letter in his hand and smiled slightly. "This admission letter hasn't reached its owner yet." God's Mental Hospital. Li Yifei sat on the grass in the courtyard, hugging his knees, staring blankly at the blue sky above. Manager, manager. Azu ran all the way from the corridor to Li Yifei, bent over with hands on knees, panting as he spoke. Manager, those two orderlies are fighting again. Li Yifei came back to his senses, frowning slightly. Zhang San and Akin? Weren't they assigned to different dormitories? Seems they met again in the public bathroom. Akin cursed a bit and they started fighting. Sister Hongyan has already gone to beat them. To mediate. Please go check it out. Li Yifei clicked his tongue, immediately stood up from the grass and began rolling up his sleeves, saying irritably, "These little brats repeatedly causing trouble for me. This time I must put them in solitary confinement." Li Yifei strode toward the orderly's dormitory. Just as he left the courtyard, as if remembering something, his footsteps suddenly stopped. "Manager, why did you stop?" Azu tilted his head in confusion. Li Yifei remained silent for a long time, slowly withdrawing his steps. He looked at Azu, whose height only reached his waist, and let out a long sigh. "Azu, try to handle this matter yourself." "Me?" Azu was stunned. I can't handle it. I can't fight them." Li Yifei shook his head and patiently said, "Azu, listen carefully. Not everything in this world needs to be resolved with strength. I'm just a snake demon who has barely reached the river realm. If it really came to a fight, I couldn't even beat you. Do you know why they all listen to me?" Azu shook his head in confusion. "Because I've established authority. In this hospital, I, Li Yifei, am second only to one person. If anyone disobeys, I don't need to act personally. Hongyan will beat them up. If Hongyan can't handle it, we'll release Wang Kai." Li Yifei looked at Azu meaningfully. "Azu, you must gradually learn to establish your own authority. You need to know how to use people. Hongyan, Wang Kai, Heitong, they were among the first to follow the director. Though they might not be the strongest, their deterrent power is definitely sufficient. In this hospital, besides me, 7 Knights trusts you and Hongyan the most. Hongyan's personality is too cold and not suitable for managing orderlies. If someday I leave, this hospital will depend on you to carry on, understand?" Listening to Li Yifei's long speech, Azu frowned in confusion and asked, "Manager, where are you going?" Li Yifei didn't answer. He just patted Azu's shoulder and said softly, "Azu, this matter, you go resolve it." Azu stared at Li Yifei's eyes, his expression very serious. After hesitating for a moment, he gritted his teeth. "All right, I'll go." Azu patted his cheeks, put on a very angry expression, clenched his small fists tightly, and quickly ran up to the orderly's dormitory. After he rushed upstairs, there was a childish roar and the entire floor fell silent. Then a few scattered voices emerged, with Azu's angry shouts growing louder. Soon, a resounding dog bark pierced the air, accompanied by hysterical screams. Hearing this, a smile finally appeared on Li Yifei's face. "It seems you're ready?" Lin Chia's voice drifted from behind him. Li Yifei turned to see the figure wearing a familiar white coat, smiling at him. Li Yifei smiled helplessly. "I'm just preparing for the future. Whether I can leave or not, Azu's temperament needs to be changed. In case I really have to leave someday, he can help you manage these orderlies, right? You've worked hard these years. Why so formal between us?" Before Li Yifei could finish, the surroundings changed and the two were in the real world. Lin Chia handed him a large red envelope. Li Yifei froze when he saw the gold embossed characters on it. "This. Open it and see." Li Yifei's hands trembled as he took the admission letter, gently opened it, and his eyes moistened the moment he saw the name inside. Lin Chia patted his shoulder and said seriously, "It's time for you to find the life that should belong to you. Student Li Yifei." September 2025. 4 figures walked into Beijing University campus, treading on the golden autumn leaves. "So this is university? It's much bigger than Tsongnan No. 6 High School." Li Yifei looked around with his backpack, couldn't help but exclaim. Though he didn't know why he was carrying an empty bag, he figured bringing a backpack to school couldn't be wrong. It's about 10 times the size of number 6 high school, and Qingyu smiled. Lin Chia explained Li Yifei's existence to Chao Yuan and others as a summoned being, which wasn't wrong. Everyone already knew Lin Chia's ability to create people out of thin air, so they didn't ask much. Only Qingyu carefully examined Li Yifei's face several times as if pondering something. When Li Yifei saw Qingyu again, he was startled, since back in Songnan, this guy had helped Lin Chia kill him. That face he would never forget. There were many students at Beijing University, and the 4 of them didn't attract much attention when they entered. Only some female students noticed Lin Chia's face and couldn't help whispering to each other, their eyes shining. Chao Yuan's gaze swept over these young students one by one, and he sighed in disappointment. Are you the special admission students the dean mentioned? In the philosophy department building, a middle-aged man with thick hair carefully examined the 4 people before him, confusion appearing in his eyes. Strange. We've never had so many special admission students in previous years. These are our enrollment documents. Lin Chia respectfully handed over the files. The middle-aged man flipped through them a few times and nodded. You've arrived a bit late. The military training for new students has already ended, but the dean has already spoken to us about you. You don't need to participate in the training, just enroll directly. His gaze fell on Qingyu sitting in the wheelchair. This student is. His name is Qingyu. He was in a car accident and can only use a wheelchair now. Sympathy appeared in the middle-aged man's eyes as he nodded slightly. By the way, I heard you're renting a place to live off campus? Yes. Well, be careful on the roads. Oh, I'm your counselor. My name is Song Jun. The middle-aged man took out his phone. Let's add each other as friends first, and I'll add you to the group chat later. Feel free to ask if you have any questions. All right, Teacher Song. After completing the formalities and leaving the office, everyone began to wander around. There were no classes this morning, so they took the opportunity to properly explore Beijing University. Following a leaf-covered avenue straight ahead, they arrived at the edge of a lake. The shimmering water reflected the azure sky, and an ancient pagoda stood among the distant green woods, exuding a deeply serene atmosphere. Qingyu, how do you feel? Lin Chia asked while pushing Qingyu's wheelchair. Qingyu's gaze fixed on the distant lake, the green trees, and the young students walking in pairs and groups by the lakeside. He smiled slightly. It's very peaceful here. I like it. Seeing Qingyu's expression, Lin Chia knew that his plan had worked. What's happening up ahead? Why is it so lively? Chao Yuan looked at a spot not far away, where temporary tents lined both sides of the road, countless figures lingered and cheerful laughter rose and fell. Club recruitment? Lin Chia read the banner clearly. It must be club activities. Let's go check it out. You all go ahead. I want to walk by the lake a bit more, Qingyu said, his gaze still fixed on the peaceful lake. Then I'll push you, Lin Chia said. No need, Chia. Are you really treating me like a disabled person? Qingyu smiled helplessly. Although I can't use forbidden domains, there aren't many things in this world that can threaten my life, especially since I have Jiang Air with me. Qingyu pointed to the Bluetooth earpiece in his ear. Seeing this, Lin Chia didn't insist further and nodded slightly. All right, then we'll see you back home tonight. Lin Chia, Chao Yuan, and Li Yifei said goodbye to Qingyu and walked directly toward the bustling club recruitment area. This road, along with the open space near the teaching buildings, was completely filled with tents, banners, and young students wearing their respective club uniforms. Amidst the sea of people, surprise appeared in Lin Chia and the others' eyes. Are there really so many clubs? Lin Chia instinctively reached out to accept a flyer from an enthusiastic anime club member dressed in cosplay. I heard back in high school that Beijing University's club recruitment was very lively, but I never thought I'd get to see it with my own eyes, Li Yifei said excitedly, looking around with hands full of flyers. Compared to Li Yifei, Lin Chia appeared much calmer. If he were truly a Beijing University student, these clubs would indeed be very attractive to him. Unfortunately, he was destined to be just a visitor here. The only reason they were standing here was to help Qingyu emerge from his shadow. Li Yifei seemed to spot something and suddenly paused. He narrowed his eyes, carefully staring at a certain direction in the crowd, and uncertainly asked, "Chia, look, is that Zhang Yang?" Lin Chia heard this strange yet familiar name and was slightly taken aback. He also turned to look, surprise appearing in his eyes. It seems like it. This guy actually got into Beijing University? He's got skills. Li Yifei quickly walked forward and tapped that person's shoulder. He turned around in confusion, saw Li Yifei behind him, and gradually widened his eyes. Then the two began to chat enthusiastically. "You know him?" Chao Yuan asked from the side. "Yes, a former high school classmate." "I see." Chao Yuan saw Zhang Yang walking over with Li Yifei and nodded slightly. "You catch up with him. I'll look around." "Okay." Chao Yuan turned and walked toward another club area. "Chia, your eyes are healed." Zhang Yang, with Li Yifei's arm around his neck, walked enthusiastically to Lin Chia. "Back then when you both dropped out with old Li, I thought I'd never see you again. Where have you all been these years?" Lin Chia and Li Yifei exchanged glances, and Lin Chia smiled as he explained, "I went to a top hospital to treat my eyes back then. After recovery I transferred and repeated a year. Li Yifei enlisted in the military directly and only got out this year." Zhang Yang nodded thoughtfully. "No wonder. So you're freshman now?" "Yes." Then you should call me senior now." Zhang Yang patted his chest and grinned. "I'm already a junior studying law. Since you just arrived, ask me anything you don't understand. I'm Beijing University's know-it-all." Looking at that familiar face, Lin Chia couldn't help but feel emotional. After all these years, Zhang Yang hadn't changed at all. His personality was still straightforward and enthusiastic, similar to Li Yifei. The two had been very close in high school. As for Lin Chia, he had joined the Night Watchers shortly after entering S166 High School, so he wasn't as familiar with Zhang Yang. "I just finished class, so I'll show you around properly." After chatting for a while and adding each other as friends, Zhang Yang waved his hand and began giving the two a tour of the school. Meanwhile, Chao Yuan walked with his hands in his pockets, moving unhurriedly between the various clubs, seeming somewhat bored. Perhaps because of his intimidating appearance, the young students distributing flyers would pretend not to see Chao Yuan when they spotted him, instinctively walking around him. This resulted in Chao Yuan only receiving one flyer despite wandering through the club recruitment area for over 20 minutes, and that was from a tough guy from the kickboxing club. Chao Yuan's gaze swept across the surroundings, and his peripheral vision caught a voluptuous figure standing under a club tent. He suddenly stopped in his tracks. "I said, what's going on with you all? It's been the whole morning and you haven't recruited a single new student." A woman wearing a navy blue kendo uniform with a long ponytail stood in the center of the kendo club's recruitment tent, looking at the several young men hanging their heads before her, speaking irritably. She wasn't tall, but her demeanor revealed a certain heroic spirit. She appeared slightly more mature among the university students, not only because of her age, but also because of her full figure that even the plain kendo uniform couldn't conceal. Those male students, also wearing kendo uniforms, replied dejectedly, "Senior Menglei, this really isn't our fault. We've handed out all our flyers but nobody's coming." "Yes, Senior, actually quite a few people are interested in the kendo club, but after hearing about our daily training schedule, they all turn and leave. Not to mention just the part about waking up at 5 every morning and then running 5 kilometers. There aren't many college students nowadays who can handle that. Everyone came to Beijing University to study, not to become special forces soldiers." Listening to the complaints from the young men before her, Lu Minglei's spirited eyebrows furrowed slightly as she said in a deep voice, Are you suggesting we can't recruit new members because the daily training schedule I arranged is unreasonable? As Lu Minglei's voice gradually took on a hint of killing intent, the Kendo Club members immediately cowered, shaking their heads like rattles. No, 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 no. If they can't even endure this little hardship, today's college students are really delicate. They only know how to bury themselves in studies and video games. At this rate, our country's young people will all become weaklings who can be blown over by a gust of wind. Lu Menglei forcefully pressed her bamboo sword on the table, making a dull thud. Her prominent chest heaved dramatically, seemingly very angry. Not to mention, if we can't recruit new members, how are we going to compete with Huaqing University's Kendo Club next time? They have dozens of members while we only have 8. Can each of you fight 10 people? Or do you want to embarrass Beijing University? The Kendo Club members lowered their heads in silence. What are you standing around for? Go recruit new students. But senior, we've handed out all our flyers. Then go print more. Before the flyers are printed, go personally recruit people on the streets. Yes, yes, yes. The Kendo Club members walked toward the street with bitter faces, extremely reluctant. The Kendo Club was relatively small, and their tent was at the back of the recruitment area, rarely noticed by anyone. You stay here, I'll go recruit people myself. Seeing their low morale, Lu Menglei shook her head helplessly, kept one member at the tent, picked up her bamboo sword and strode toward the center of the path. Student, want to learn about the Kendo Club? Lu Menglei held her bamboo sword with a heroic and graceful demeanor. Such a beautiful woman standing in the middle of the path immediately attracted the attention of many new students. Under her enthusiastic invitation, a wave of new students walked toward the tent with great interest, but after learning about the club activities, they immediately fled as if avoiding a snake or scorpion. Soon the tent became deserted again. So fragile. Seeing this, Lu Menglei frowned, her expression somewhat dejected. If she couldn't recruit new members, how would she report back to the faculty advisor? Just as Lu Menglei was feeling disappointed, a figure slowly walked past her. It was a man with a very proportionate build. Although he didn't have bodybuilder muscles, he gave off a strange sense of strength with a hint of military bearing in his movements. Student. Lu Minglei's eyes lit up as she suddenly reached out to grab the man's wrist. The man turned his head slightly, revealing a cold and resolute face. The angular features combined with clean-cut short hair gave him a kind of inexplicable fierceness. Lu Menglei had only seen this quality in her grandfather, and her grandfather had been one of the few generals of the country. What? Chao Yuan asked in a deep voice. Lu Menglei stared at Chao Yuan's face for a moment, then her face lit up with joy. Those solid arms, that fierce demeanor. This was excellent Kendo material. Student, want to learn about the Kendo Club? Lu Menglei pointed to the distant tent and banner, her eyes full of expectation. Chao Yuan looked at his arm being held by her, his expression somewhat strange. I'm not interested in clubs. Hey, once you see it, you'll be interested really. Having finally caught a good prospect, Lu Menglei naturally wouldn't let him go easily. She firmly pulled his arm to the tent and began to explain earnestly. Besides the daily morning run, we also have fixed times for Kendo practice every week, about 20 hours or so, which can count toward your physical education requirements. Additionally, our faculty advisor is an 8th Dan Kyoshi, very authoritative. After Lu Menglei had roughly explained the Kendo Club's situation, Chao Yuan still stood in place, unmoved. Seeing this, Lu Minglei's eyes brightened even more. There's hope. It's worth noting that ordinary new students would immediately turn and leave after hearing all this, but this man didn't react. Student Kendo is really charming. Although we use bamboo swords besides cultivating interest, it's also great for physical training. Here, try my bamboo sword, just swing it a few times and you'll feel its charm. Lu Menglei seized the opportunity and tried to put her bamboo sword into Chao Yuan's hand, but his pupils suddenly contracted and he stepped back sharply. No joke, a bamboo sword is still a sword and a cutting tool. If he touched such a thing, he would instantly transform into the Black King. He didn't want to do a hee-hee transformation in front of the entire faculty and student body on his first day at school. Lu Menglei was stunned. "Student, it's okay, just try it." No, 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 I can't touch these things. Really, just try it." "Senior." Chao Yuan retreated several steps and began to choose his words carefully. "I'm not used to handling swords, even fake ones. Besides, I probably won't be staying at school for very long, and joining a club would only hold you back." "Senior, I think he really doesn't like it. Maybe we should let it go," the club member beside her advised. "Yeah. Senior, you can't force a reluctant person. If you insist too hard, you'll scare him away." "Senior, I know you just got divorced and you're feeling upset, but you shouldn't take it out on new students. How about this? Tonight we'll take our bamboo swords to that heartless guy's house and beat him up to vent your anger." "Senior, that scumbag isn't worth it." "Who's upset? Don't talk nonsense." Lu Menglei suddenly turned her head and glared at them fiercely. "If anyone dares to mention that bastard again, be careful or I'll tear your mouth apart." Seeing Lu Menglei's anger, everyone lowered their heads and said no more. "Senior," Chao Yuan swallowed and slowly spoke. "All right, I won't bother you anymore. You can go. I was too pushy just now, I'm really sorry." Lu Menglei pursed her lips and bowed slightly, then turned to leave. Actually," Chao Yuan hesitated for a moment, then cleared his throat and spoke. I am interested in kendo after all. This is the new GUN cafeteria at Beijing University, built just a few years ago, and the environment is quite nice. The first floor is self-service dining where you get your food and pay, the second floor has regional cuisine restaurants, and the fourth floor has some Western food and snacks. By the way, the dry-fried chicken rice on the third floor is exceptional, you should try it when you have the chance. Over there is the library, which has study rooms inside, but they're usually crowded and it closes after 10:30 p.m. If you need to study overnight, you can only find classrooms that remain open. Zhang Yang was showing Li Yifei around Beijing University, introducing each building to them. He called himself the know-it-all of Beijing University, and he did indeed know quite a bit. Besides knowing Beijing University like the back of his hand, he was familiar with the unusual stories, romances, and legends of each department. Speaking of studying in classrooms, I should give you a heads up first. Zhang Yang seemed to recall something, gradually slowing his steps and pointing to a teaching building in the distance, saying seriously, "Do you see that teaching building?" "Yes, what about it?" "That's Beijing University's Building 5, also known as the Martyrs Building. Before Building 6 was constructed, it was the highest point at Beijing University. Every year, several students who couldn't cope with life would jump from there." Zhang Yang paused. "Let me put it this way, that place isn't clean." "Oh." Hearing about ghosts, Li Yifei and Lin Chia both became interested. "A scary university legend? Sounds interesting, tell us more," Li Yifei asked enthusiastically. "This is more than just a legend." Seeing that Lin Chia and Li Yifei weren't taking it seriously, Zhang Yang deliberately lowered his voice, staring at Building 5 under the shadow of clouds, and slowly began. "Many incidents have happened in Building 5, but the most famous one involves classroom 609. The sixth floor of Building 5 has 10 classrooms in total. The south side has 4 even-numbered rooms from 602 to 610, and the north side has 5 odd-numbered rooms from 601 to 609. Classroom 609 is in the northernmost corner of the 6th floor. About 7 or 8 years ago, a senior female student needed to pull an all-nighter to finish a report. After looking around, she settled in classroom 609. At that time, the power in the building was cut off after 11 p.m., so she brought an emergency light to work through the night. Initially, there were other students in nearby classrooms studying for finals, but as it got later they all gradually left. By around 2 a.m. she was the only girl left in the entire building. Later as she was writing she got sleepy. Being quite brave, she simply turned off her emergency light and put her head down on the desk to rest for a while. When she woke up it was already past 3 a.m. She was still groggy when she woke up. After turning on her emergency light, she noticed that many students had appeared around her, studying. She didn't think much of it at first, but she quickly realized something was wrong. Although all these studying students had emergency lights or flashlights, they didn't make any sound when turning pages. When she looked closely at the book in the hands of the figure next to her, guess what? Zhang Yang's voice grew increasingly hushed, his eyes staring intently at Li Yifei, making the latter shudder involuntarily. What? The books they were reading were all editions from several decades ago, and they were all wearing very old-fashioned Zhongshan suits. Li Yifei's mouth fell open in shock. Afterward, the girl lost consciousness. When she came to her senses, it was already the next morning. The incident had a severe impact on her, causing mental health issues. A few days later she had a major argument with her boyfriend and in a moment of despair, jumped from the roof of Building 5. Zhang Yang sighed. Is it really that spooky? Far from showing any fear, Li Yifei excitedly turned to Lin Chia. Chia, let's find time to check it out. Zhang Yang. So everything I just said was for nothing, huh? Just as Zhang Yang was about to say something, his phone rang. He answered it and apologetically said to Lin Chia and Li Yifei, I have something to attend to at my club. I need to go now. Take your time looking around and call me if you have any questions. Sure. Watching Zhang Yang walk away, Li Yifei curiously asked, Chia, what do you think? About what? The scary story he just told. Yeah. Lin Chia shrugged. I've already scanned that building with my mental power. There are no ghosts, not even traces of any mysterious intrusion. Legends are just legends, no need to take them seriously. Li Yifei's face showed disappointment. I think we've seen most of the campus. Let's go find our department classrooms, then grab a meal at the cafeteria before heading back, Lin Chia said. Okay. As Lin Chia and Li Yifei left, a figure slowly walked to the window inside classroom 609 of Building 5 in the distance. He watched Lin Chia walking away, his eyes narrowing slightly as if contemplating something. By the lakeside at Beijing University, Qingyu sat in his wheelchair, eyes closed, feeling the gentle breeze for some time before finally opening his eyes. Jiang Er, what time is it? It's after 5, Jiang Er's voice came through the earpiece. Those students have already packed up their booths. Are you sure you don't want to go take a look? In my current condition, going there would only attract a lot of attention. I'd prefer to stay quiet. Qingyu shook his head. Since they've started packing up, we should head back too. All right. Qingyu pressed a button on his wheelchair, automatically turning around and heading toward the university gate. During this process, several students noticed Qingyu sitting alone in his wheelchair and kindly approached to ask if he needed help, but he politely declined with a smile. Just as Qingyu was about to leave Beijing University, his peripheral vision caught a tent at the edge. It was the Go Club's booth. Most things had been packed up and several students were standing on the table, taking down the banner from the top of the tent. Noticing Qingyu's gaze, a club member quickly walked over and enthusiastically asked, Hey there, interested in the Go Club? Go is excellent for developing logical thinking skills and is very beneficial for brain development. No, thank you. Qingyu paused for a moment, then pointed to a Go board and 2 containers of stones on the booth table and asked, Are you selling that Go set? Autumn breeze gently caresses, golden maple leaves drift down from the branches in the courtyard, lightly adorning the chessboard on the stone table. Qingyu holds a black chess piece, frowning as he looks at the intertwined black and white pieces on the board. Beads of sweat slide down his temple as if he's struggling to think through something. Jiang Er floats on the other side of the stone table, looking at Qingyu's appearance with concern. Qingyu, why don't you take a break? It's fine. And Qingyu shakes his head, hesitating for half a minute with the piece in midair before slowly placing it on a certain spot on the board. Jiang Air sighs, and a white piece automatically floats out from the container, landing in a position adjacent to the black piece. And Qingyu sinks into deep thought again. Just then the courtyard gate is pushed open and Lin Chia and Li Yifei walk in. They both freeze when they see Qingyu playing Go with Jiang Air under the tree. Lin Chia's brows immediately furrow as he steps forward. You've barely rested for a few days. Why are you starting again? It's just playing Go. The cognitive load on my brain isn't actually that heavy. And Qingyu forces a smile. You know what, Chia, I've discovered a pattern. What pattern? It's not that I can't use the forbidden domains, but rather that after using them my brain can't process the immense load they bring. To completely heal it, I can't expect to reach the top in one step. I need to start from the fundamental computational logic training bit by bit. And Qingyu points to the Go board in front of him. These past few days I've been trying to rehabilitate my brain. Go is the best method I could think of. Its lower and upper limits are both very high. I can start adapting from the most basic gameplay, and eventually there will be a day when I fully recover. An hour ago I could barely play 25 moves with Jiang Air. Now I can play 38 moves with her. I can feel that my soul's wounds are gradually adapting to the cognitive computational load. Hearing this, Lin Chia looks at the board in front of him with surprise. Really? It's true. Jiang Air nods slightly, although the process is painful. Lin Chia had always thought that Qingyu's aftereffects were irreversible, and neither the Celestial Lord nor Dr. Li could do anything about it. But why isn't Qingyu now saying that he can feel his soul's wounds gradually healing? If that's true, then with enough time he could return to his prime and use the only correct solution again. Whatever the case, taking care of your health is most important. If you're tired, make sure to rest properly, Lin Chia reminds him earnestly. Oh right, I haven't given you today's medicine yet. I'll go prepare it for you. Jiang Air seems to suddenly remember something and hurriedly floats up from her seat, passing through the wall into the house. Chia, play with me for a while longer. All right. With no other choice, Lin Chia sits down in Jiang Air's original position, taking the white pieces to continue playing with Qingyu. It's evident that when Jiang Air plays with Qingyu, she uses the most basic Go skill level. For Jiang Air, who is connected to the entire human internet, she could instantly elevate her skill to the level of the world's top artificial intelligence. But to accommodate Qingyu's condition, she's currently playing at an elementary school level. Lin Chia tries his best to mimic Jiang Air's style, placing pieces slowly. Qingyu. Jiang Air has been through a lot during this time. Lin Chia looks up at him. Do you have any plans? Plans. If you don't marry her, it will be hard to resolve this situation. And Qingyu's hand holding the chess piece stops in midair, and a faint blush appears on his pale cheeks. He responds helplessly, not everyone in this world is like you, Lin Chia. You and Jialon haven't even officially defined your relationship, yet you jump straight to marriage. I don't have such thick skin. I haven't fulfilled the promise I made to her, and now I'm in this state. With an uncertain future and willing but unable, how could I have the face to propose to her? In matters of the heart, isn't it better to be direct? Lin Chia counters, you always overthink everything, deliberating thoroughly before acting, planning the entire situation, allowing no room for error. That's impressive on the battlefield, but in relationships, it's just indecisiveness. And Qingyu is taken aback, then smiles. I never thought there would be a day when you'd be lecturing me about relationships. I'm speaking the truth. Lin Chia places a piece down, saying seriously, Jiang Air's feelings for you are obvious to all of us. Girls like her are extremely rare. We're a special squad, not carefree ordinary people. If you want to wait until everything settles down to make further plans, when will that be? You never know which will come first. tomorrow, or the unexpected. And Qingyu looks at the board in front of him, falling silent. You're very focused when you do things, which is good, but don't always keep your entire attention fixed on one thing. Look more at the people around you. Lin Chia places a piece down, speaking with deep meaning. Medicine's here. Jiang Er, dressed in a white gown, quickly emerges from the house. A ceramic bowl hovers in her palm, with a spoon automatically stirring the medicinal soup inside, and she passes it to Qingyu. Qingyu takes the medicine and drinks a sip. It's not scalding hot as one might expect, but rather comfortably warm, suggesting it has been cooled for a while. It's not too hot, is it? Jiang Er blinks her eyes. Qingyu quietly gazes at her and after a long while finally smiles slightly. No, it's not hot. Lin Chia looks at the two in front of him and very consciously moves away from his seat, walking toward the house. Just then his phone suddenly rings. Hello. This is Qin Han. On the other end of the phone, Qin Han's voice sounds somewhat grave. Chia, you'd better come over. The headquarters report about that monster from the other day is out. Hearing these words, Lin Chia's gaze slightly focuses. All right, I'll be right there. Beijing City, Squad 006 headquarters. Take a look at this. Qin Han stands behind the desk, takes out a stack of papers from the drawer, and hands them to Lin Chia. This is a stack of photocopies of some ancient scroll. Apart from some crooked text, there are just some meaningless line patterns. Lin Chia flips through several pages, confusion appearing in his eyes. What is this? The original of this rubbing comes from the Shangxia Society's confidential archives. It's an ancient scroll they found in a Cthulhu ruin many years ago. The headquarters couldn't find any clues about that monster, so they sent someone to contact the Shangxia Society, and that's how they dug this up. Shangxia Society? Lin Chia's mind immediately recalls the fourth level of the archives collection he visited with Jin Yan in Utopia. That place stored items related to the Cthulhu system. Without a doubt, the original document would be among those glass display cases. When Lin Chia turns to the last page, in the center of the rubbing is carved a strangely shaped insect. Upon careful examination, it bears a 6 or 7/10 resemblance to the pink fleshy worm they saw that day. According to the Shangxia Society scholars' decryption analysis, the monster we encountered that day is called a Migo. Migo. Lin Chia murmured this name. In Cthulhu mythology, Migo is described as an alien species that believes in truth and science. They don't worship the Cthulhu gods much, except for one. Qin Han paused for a moment, then slowly said, Yog-Sothoth. Hearing this name, Lin Chia immediately reacted. The key to the gate? Correct. Qin Han nodded. Yog-Sothoth, the key to the gate, is the all-knowing, all-seeing God and the embodiment of truth. His existence itself is the ultimate pursuit of the Migo race. They fanatically worship the key to the gate and try to be granted infinite wisdom from him. Lin Chia nodded thoughtfully. So, the monster we encountered the other day, there's more than just one? Definitely more. The Migo obtained some authority over space and time from the key to the gate. They usually dwell in the cracks of space-time and are rarely seen in the real world. So what we encountered that day was just an accident? I don't know. Qin Han sighed. If it was just that one Migo accidentally traveling through a time fissure to present-day Beijing, that would be the best outcome. I'm afraid they might have other purposes. There shouldn't be anything in Beijing that would attract their attention, right? Lin Chia thought for a moment, then shook his head and said, Anyway, let's stay alert for a while. I'll be staying in Beijing during this period, and I can immediately sense if there's any trace of Migo. Having a special squad stationed in Beijing does give a sense of security. Qin Han smiled slightly. Lin Chia walked out of Qin Han's office, crossed the courtyard of the quadrangle, and was about to leave when several figures emerged from the side room. Lord Chia. Feng Mo's eyes lit up upon seeing Lin Chia. He held a stack of documents in his hand and quickly walked up to Lin Chia, saying, Lord Chia, we've screened all the current night watchman lists these past few days and picked out several good candidates. Do you have any suggestions? Lin Chia raised an eyebrow, took the list and scanned it, then nodded slightly. These are all pretty good. However, when building a team, complementing each other is most important. Purely pursuing individual combat power may not be the most suitable for you. He handed the documents back to Fang Yimou, who nodded thoughtfully. Instructor Lin, you haven't come to see us for several days. What have you been busy with lately? Li Jinjin asked curiously. I've been attending school recently. Lin Chia put his hands back in his pockets and turned to walk out of the quadrangle. Fang Yimou, Li Jinjin and Lu Baozhu all froze in place. Did he just say, what has he been doing recently? The next day, Lin Chia leisurely walked out of his bedroom, glanced at the time on the wall, yawned and began knocking on Li Yifei's door. Knock knock knock. Li Yifei, time to get up, we have class this morning. Yen at #% yen at. What did you say? You go by yourself. I'll sleep a bit more. Lin Chia. Skipping the first day of class? Lin Chia shook his head helplessly, then turned and walked to Chao Yuan's door, knocked for a while but received no response. While Lin Chia was puzzled, Jiang air floated out from the wall next door. Chao Yuan seems to have left around 4 a.m. 4 a.m.? Why did he get up so early? He didn't explain in detail. I think he went jogging. Maybe to exercise. Lin Chia's expression was a bit strange. With Chao Yuan's physical condition, he didn't need morning runs at all. Getting up early to run at school on the second day? This didn't seem like something he would do. While Lin Chia was confused, and Qingyu came out of his room in a wheelchair, already washed up. He smiled at Lin Chia. Looks like it's just the two of us. Run. Everyone run. Why do you all look so listless? Are you not fully awake? On the track field of Beijing University, Lu Menglei, dressed in sportswear, shouted at the Kendo Club members who were lagging far behind. These Kendo Club members, with heavy dark circles under their eyes, looked like they were about to collapse. Most of them had played on their phones until the early morning before sleeping, getting only 4 or 5 hours of sleep, and then running more than 10 laps on an empty stomach. They felt like they were not far from death. Senior, we're really tired, didn't sleep much. I can't go on, I need to walk for a bit. Tired already? Look at Junior Chao Yuan, his sleep schedule is similar to yours. Why isn't he tired? Lu Menglei pointed at Chao Yuan, who was calmly running at the front. Chao Yuan wore casual clothes and jogged leisurely on the track as if taking a stroll. Though his pace wasn't fast, he gave the impression that no one could catch up to him. Senior, we really can't go on, we need to rest. Cough cough. I need to drink some water, too tired. Senior, keep it up, we'll support you from the side. As time passed, the Kendo Club members at the back gradually exhausted their strength and sat down to rest one after another. Soon only Chao Yuan and Lu Menglei were left on the track, running one in front of the other along the inside lane. Junior, can you still keep going? Do you want me to run in front and block the wind for you? No need, I'm fine. Chao Yuan's breathing was as steady as a mountain. Your physical fitness is impressive. Are you a sports major? I study philosophy. What do you study? Oh, I'm in the Chinese department, but I'm not an undergraduate, I'm a doctoral student. Doctoral student? Chao Yuan blinked. Then, how old are you? Hearing this, Lu Menglei was momentarily stunned, then punched Chao Yuan's back from behind, saying irritably, Is a girl's age something you can ask casually? Be careful or I'll take my bamboo sword and beat you up. You probably can't beat me. Just joined the Kendo Club and already so cocky, let's see about that after class tonight. I'll let you attack first for 10 moves. I have a situation and policy class tonight, it might be almost 10 p.m. when it ends. Chao Yuan sighed with some regret. No problem. I'll still be practicing Kendo at the dojo then, I'll wait for you there. Lu Menglei pretended to be angry, seemingly determined to teach Chao Yuan a lesson. but deep down she couldn't help but feel ecstatic. Ah, fell for it. This tough nut is finally being tricked into practicing kendo. Tonight, once I beat him up good and let him experience the charm of kendo, he'll eventually be willing to learn kendo from me. Given time, the Beijing University Kendo Club will gain another powerful member. The confident Lu Menglei didn't notice that when she finished speaking, Chao Yuan, running at the front, had a slight smile at the corner of his mouth. Good. Beijing University classroom. Lin Chia and An Qingyu arrived early, but the classroom was already half full. Their entrance as unfamiliar faces attracted some attention, but the other students merely glanced at them before returning to their books. To their surprise, Chao Yuan was sitting in the second-to-last row, waving at them as if he had been there for a while. When did you get here? I didn't check the time, but when I came in the classroom was still empty. Jiang Er said you went for a morning run? Yeah, just a casual jog. Lin Chia gave Chao Yuan a suspicious look before sitting down beside him, while An Qingyu sat on the other side. Chia, I have a question. Chao Yuan hesitated before speaking up. What is it? Generally speaking, how old would someone be when they get a doctorate? Hearing this strange question, Lin Chia raised an eyebrow. Well, it depends on the field. What about Chinese literature? Chinese literature is typically a 4-year undergraduate program. If someone starts college at 19, then 4 years for bachelor's, 3 years for master's and doctorate, depending on how far they go, probably 3 to 5 years. So a doctoral student would be at least 26, possibly up to 30. Chao Yuan's eyes gradually lit up. Did you meet a female doctoral student? And Qingyu, sensing something unusual, asked with a smile. Makes sense given your preferences, old Chao. You wouldn't like someone too young. A doctoral student a few years older than you, especially if she's curvy and perhaps divorced, would be just your type. Maybe there's someone like that right here at Beijing University. Chao Yuan instinctively wanted to deny it, but after a moment of hesitation he silently turned away without responding. So it's true. Lin Chia's eyes widened. And Qingyu's Bluetooth earpiece suddenly lit up. He sighed, removed it and placed it in Chao Yuan's ear. The next moment, Jiang Er's excited voice filled his mind. What's her name? How old is she? Which department? Is she a student or a teacher? No, just tell me her name and I can pull up all her records for you. Even a photo would work, I can help you screen her. Chao Yuan silently removed the earpiece and handed it back to An Qingyu. Ahem. I'll try to approach her myself first. If necessary, I'll let you all know later. Lin Chia and An Qingyu exchanged glances, their expressions somewhat peculiar. The class Lin Chia and the others were attending was Introduction to Philosophy. Less than 15 minutes into the lecture, Chao Yuan had already fallen asleep at his desk in the second-to-last row. Lin Chia's eyelids were also drooping, while only An Qingyu remained attentively listening, his focused expression earning repeated glances from the professor. Fortunately, Li Yifei hadn't come. If he were here, his snoring would probably have been loud enough to bring down the classroom ceiling. Out of boredom, Lin Chia sank his consciousness into the divine mental hospital. King Louis, time for your medicine. Gilgamesh looked at the small boy who barely reached his waist, a vein bulging at his temple. He took 2 deep breaths, forcibly swallowing the drag him out and dismember him that had nearly escaped his lips. Why aren't you saying anything? Azu asked, holding a bowl of medicinal soup and tilting his head in confusion. The king does not wish to speak with you. Oh, then take your medicine first. Put the medicine down, the king will drink it later. But it won't taste good if it gets cold. The king doesn't want to drink it now. No way, Manager Li instructed me to take care of you. Gilgamesh's fists clenched involuntarily, but looking at Azu's innocent face, he couldn't bring himself to say anything harsh, let alone raise a hand against him. In his heyday, anyone who dared speak to him like this would have been dragged away and dismembered the moment the words, King Louis, left their mouth. Who would have dared address him this way? Undeniably, in certain situations, sincerity is the best weapon. Gilgamesh reluctantly grabbed the medicine bowl and downed the contents in one gulp, his face dark enough to drip water. There, are you satisfied now? You have medicine residue on your lips. Here's a tissue to wipe it off. Azu stood on tiptoe, offering a tissue with both hands. Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh took the tissue, quickly wiped his mouth and glared at him. Get out. Okay. Azu hugged the empty bowl and bounced out of the room. Watching Azu's retreating figure, Gilgamesh felt mentally exhausted. He sat down in a chair in the ward and sighed helplessly. A few minutes later, repeating old man, time for your medicine. Azu's voice rang out loudly on the hospital ward's rooftop. Yolanda stood by the wire fence, looking down at the hospital grounds. Hearing the voice, he turned slightly and spoke kindly. You've done well, child. I know, but it's time for your medicine. You've done well, child. Fine, just take your medicine first. It'll get cold if you don't drink it. You've done well, child. Finding communication ineffective, Azu's little face crumpled. He held the medicinal soup on the rooftop for a full 3 minutes, but Yolanda refused to take it, just smiling and repeating the same phrase. Old man. You really need to take your medicine, it's already cold. Azu felt the soup growing cold in his arms and anxiously began stomping his feet. If you don't drink it, I'll have to feed you. You've done well, child. Seeing this, Azu gritted his teeth, scooped up a spoonful of medicine with the soup spoon, and slowly moved it toward Yolanda's lips. Just as the spoon was about to touch Yolanda's lips, a terrifying repulsive force erupted from within him. Bang! The spoon in Azu's hand instantly shattered, sharp fragments cutting his delicate palm. Then the medicine bowl in his arms broke apart, as if an invisible hammer had struck his chest. His small body was propelled like a cannonball against the wire fence, tearing open a gap in the top floor's fencing. Azu stared blankly at the kindly smiling figure as he fell backward toward the ground. Just before he was about to crash onto the ground, a blur rushed past and caught him firmly. Then a king's furious aura surged skyward. Gilgamesh, wearing a gray robe, held the injured Azu with one hand while pointing a long sword at Yolanda's nose with the other. His piercing eyes burned with rage. You are seeking death? Yolanda looked at him quietly. The smile on her face still hadn't faded in the slightest. You did well, child. Gilgamesh's eyes narrowed, the killing intent between his brows intensifying. He gently raised his hand, and a divine power carried Azu down among the exclaiming caretakers. A purple glow began to dance along the edge of his sword. The king has been displeased with you for a long time. Today you struck first, so you can't blame the king. Gilgamesh snorted coldly. The next moment, a ferocious purple sword light swept across the hospital rooftop like a crescent moon. The sky was tinged with a layer of purple, and amid a thunderous explosion, rolling dust engulfed the entire hospital ward. What happened? Don't know. King Gigi suddenly started fighting with the old repeating machine. Azu, are you okay? Someone come quickly to bandage him. This earth-shattering rumble attracted all the caretakers. Red Face held the coughing Azu, her expression extremely gloomy. Does anyone know what happened? Beside her, at Black Pupil's brow, a red eye was staring intently at the center of the battlefield. He slowly spoke. Azu wanted to give Yelon medicine, then a white light suddenly burst from the latter's body, injuring Azu. White light. Was it intentional or unintentional? Don't know, perhaps unintentional after all, he is a mental patient. As the dust gradually cleared, many caretakers nervously looked at the center of the ward that had been reduced to ruins, shock appearing in their eyes. Gilgamesh held his sword, divine power surging throughout his body. The sword, laden with the king's law, was pressed against Yelon's neck. But even though the latter had taken that earth-shattering blow head-on, he showed no injuries, not even a speck of dust on his body. You did well, child. Yelon said with a kind smile. The anger in Gilgamesh's eyes grew more intense. An invisible domain instantly enveloped the entire hospital. In the sky above his head, the embryonic form of a treasury appeared faintly. Dense divine weapons poured out from the treasury like waves, covering the hospital's sky. Brilliant divine lights lit up one after another, sweeping out a suffocating aura that made all the caretakers feel breathless. Seeing this, Yelon's expression finally showed some change. His brows furrowed slightly, and the smile at the corners of his mouth gradually receded. You did well, child. Gilgamesh's pupils contracted slightly. Just as he was about to make his move, a voice suddenly rang out from afar. Stop. A streak of darkness rushed up to the sky, transforming into a figure wearing a white coat. Seeing Lin Chia arrive, Gilgamesh snorted coldly and after a moment's hesitation, slowly lowered the sword pressed against Yelon's neck. The divine weapons hanging in the sky gradually disappeared without a trace. Looking at the two standing opposite each other in the ruins, Lin Chia's expression was extremely grave. Are you trying to tear down this hospital? Gilgamesh looked coldly at Yelon without saying much, just waved his hand to disperse the sword and walked straight toward his own ward. Yelon still stood smiling in place, saying nothing. Can someone tell me what happened here? Lin Chia asked sternly. Black Pupil respectfully stepped forward and recounted everything that had just happened. Lin Chia turned his head slightly to look at Azu, who was being taken to the treatment room, his brows furrowing slightly. Azu. He walked forward and carefully examined Azu's injuries with his mental power. Azu's injuries weren't serious. Apart from some fractured ribs in his chest, there were just a few shallow scratches on his skin from debris. These injuries were nothing for a mystery like him. He could self-heal quickly. Director. Azu lay on the bed, his lips slightly pursed, his eyes a bit red. I didn't manage the hospital well. Manager Lee has only been gone for a few days and something happened in the hospital. Am I useless? Lin Chia gently stroked his head and said, I understand what happened now. It's not your fault. I'll handle this matter, you just rest well. Azu nodded obediently. Lin Chia walked out of the medical room, his face gloomy, and headed straight toward Yelon. Yelon stood in front of a pile of ruins, looking at him kindly without any trace of battle on his body, as if Gilgamesh's attacks had never happened. Why did you hurt him? Lin Chia asked sternly. You did very. I'm asking you, why did you hurt him? Not waiting for Yelon to finish, Lin Chia flashed in front of him, one hand lightning fast grabbing toward the latter's shoulder. Flap. Lin Chia's palm touched Yelon's body, making a light sound. The terrifying repulsive force he had imagined did not appear. Lin Chia stood there stunned, seemingly somewhat surprised. After hearing Black Pupil's description, he had thought that the repulsive force was passively released by Yelon, so he reached out to test, but why was there no reaction when his palm touched Yelon now? Yelon quietly looked at Lin Chia, who was just inches away, without speaking. You did it on purpose? Lin Chia seemed to realize something, his eyes narrowing to a dangerous arc, like an enraged lion staring at an enemy invading its territory. You did well, child. Yelon's face showed no change whatsoever. Lin Chia's chest rose and fell slightly. He forced himself to calm down, his brain working at high speed. After a long while, he released Yelon's shoulder and slowly spoke. I know you have mental issues, but regardless, hurting someone means taking responsibility. This is your first offense, so I won't pursue it further. Starting today, you'll be confined to your room for 3 days. You did well, child. Lin Chia didn't respond. He took Yelon back to his room and slowly closed the door. The latter showed no resistance at all. On the contrary, until the door was completely shut, he kept smiling at Lin Chia. However, this smile now seemed like an unsolvable puzzle to Lin Chia. What was he thinking? Or rather, was he thinking in a normal way at all? Could that repulsive force just now be a breakthrough point for his condition? Lin Chia paced outside the second-floor ward, constantly pondering. Just then his peripheral vision caught Gilgamesh's room. After a moment's hesitation he pushed the door open and walked in. "Are you all right?" Lin Chia asked proactively, seeing Gilgamesh standing alone by the window. Gilgamesh nodded slightly. "That guy, he didn't fight back at all. What do you think about this matter?" Gilgamesh didn't answer immediately. He stood in silence for a long time before slowly speaking. "He's not right." "What's not right about him?" "The king's attacks fell on him without any effect," Gilgamesh said puzzledly. "Even though the king didn't use full power, but in real combat, even that monkey couldn't easily withstand it. How did he completely ignore the king's attacks?" Lin Chia fell into deep thought. "He is the Holy Lord of the Western Holy Church, and also the one who sealed the Cthulhu gods during the moon landing years ago. It's not surprising that his strength is unfathomable, right?" Gilgamesh opened his mouth but found himself unable to refute. Michael, the first angel of heaven, was already the strongest in the current world. The realm of Yurand, the creator of heaven, was likely above the supreme level. And now Gilgamesh was only a major god, so it was indeed reasonable that he couldn't defeat him. "Anyway, I don't like him." Gilgamesh shook his head. "He'd better not provoke me, otherwise I won't care whether he's the Holy Lord of the Holy Church or not. Next time I will still take action." Lin Chia spent quite some time appeasing Gilgamesh before the matter was finally settled. By the time he came out of the hospital, the morning classes were almost over. Chao Yuan woke up drowsily from his dream. Seeing everyone around him starting to pack up their books, he also stuffed the only notebook on his desk, still wrapped in plastic, into his chest and nodded at Lin Chia and Qingyu. "Time to eat. You're worse than Li Yifei. Rather than sleeping here, you might as well lie in bed," Lin Chia couldn't help but comment. "I don't know why, but sleeping here feels better than in bed," Chao Yuan shrugged. Today Lin Chia and the others had a full schedule of classes. After lunch they wandered around the school for a while before classes resumed. By the time the last class ended, it was already past 9 in the evening. As the final bell rang, Chao Yuan suddenly woke up from his sleep. He checked the time, quickly packed his things and was about to head out. "It's so late, where are you going?" "Oh, just going for a walk." "You guys go back first." Watching Chao Yuan's hurriedly departing figure, Lin Chia and Qingyu exchanged glances, their expressions somewhat peculiar. Beijing University Kendo Club. By the time Chao Yuan walked into the kendo training ground with his backpack, it was almost 10 o'clock. The roads near the teaching buildings outside were mostly empty of pedestrians. In the darkness, only this room quietly emitted light. In the empty space, a graceful figure dressed in a navy blue kendo uniform was seriously practicing sword swings against the air. The sound of the bamboo sword cutting through the air, accompanied by crisp shouts, echoed throughout the dojo. As a gust of cold autumn wind swept into the room, Lu Menglei turned around and spoke with some displeasure. "Why are you so late? Didn't the last class end at 9:30? The teacher kept us overtime." "I couldn't help it." Chao Yuan spread his hands helplessly. "Situation and policy can also run overtime?" "Yes." At this moment, in the corridor of the teaching building opposite the Kendo Club's activity area, Qingyu silently lowered the binoculars in his hand, his expression somewhat strange. "Overtime? Such a clumsy excuse." Lin Chia clicked his tongue. Secretly watching a girl practice sword in the cold night wind from outside the window for half an hour. I never thought that old Chao, with his thick eyebrows and big eyes, would play this game. "Do you think he waited so long just to watch her?" Qingyu said with a half-smile. "You mean, this guy, usually not so bright, but when it comes to this kind of thing he's quite clever." Found it. Jiang Er's voice suddenly rang out, somewhat excitedly. "I hacked into Beijing University's internal system and compared that girl's appearance. Her name is Lu Menglei, 29 years old, a doctoral student in the Chinese department, and also the president of the Kendo Club." "Huh. What's wrong?" She's been married before? Jiang Er spoke in shock. She has 5 points added to her third-class credits for having a marriage certificate, and it was just over a year ago. Lin Chia and An Qingyu's mouths uncontrollably fell open. So you were right? Lin Chia asked with a strange expression. So now she and Chao Yuan are. No, it's not what you think. Lu Menglei got divorced last month, Jiang Er said like a hunter searching for prey, her eyes gleaming with excitement. I searched their school's gossip forum, and this drama is too juicy. Tell us more. The man who married Lu Menglei was a male student from the same major. They were together for 3 years, and then last year, as they were both getting older, they got married under pressure from their families. But unexpectedly, in the second year of marriage, Lu Menglei caught that man dating new girlfriends on campus. 3 at the same time. Lin Chia's expression immediately became colorful. And then, it's said that Lu Menglei, in a fit of rage, chased that man with a bamboo sword for more than 10 kilometers, and then they got divorced directly. Lin Chia finally understood why so many girls were fond of gossip. Admittedly, sometimes these stories were truly captivating, especially when they happened right around you. At least Chao Yuan isn't the third party, and Qingyu sighed in relief. Inside the activity area, Lu Menglei picked up a bamboo sword from the side and handed it to Chao Yuan. Come on, let me see how good you are. Chao Yuan looked at the wooden sword in her hand. I don't need this. Lu Menglei was slightly stunned, then spoke somewhat angrily. What? We agreed to spar this morning and now you're backing out. Chao Yuan didn't speak, but silently pulled out a slender branch from the side of his bag. He held it like a knife, with the other end of the branch pointing directly at Lu Menglei's bamboo sword. Lu Menglei was stunned for a long time before she reacted, pretending to be angry. Are you joking? No, Chao Yuan calmly replied. I'll use this. Lu Menglei's prominent chest heaved violently. She gripped the bamboo sword tightly and snorted. Fine. Since you're asking for a beating, I won't go easy on you. As the words fell, Lu Menglei's footwork shifted and she quickly rushed forward. The bamboo sword swung forcefully towards the branch in Chao Yuan's hand, making a slight whistling sound as it cut through the air. The branch was only about as thick as a thumb and looked like it could be easily snapped with a light bend. Not just Lu Menglei, even an ordinary person casually swinging a bamboo sword could easily break the branch. It was by no means something that could be considered a weapon. This behavior, in Lu Menglei's view, was definitely arrogant and somewhat insulting to Kendo. She silently determined to teach Chao Yuan a lesson. Just as the bamboo sword was about to touch the branch, Chao Yuan's figure retreated half a step like a ghost, precisely avoiding this sword attack. Missing her strike, Lu Menglei frowned slightly. Her footwork showed no panic as she steadily moved forward, her bamboo sword striking repeatedly, the offensive extremely fierce. But strangely, no matter how she swung her sword, the bamboo sword couldn't touch Chao Yuan at all, let alone break that slender branch. After 6 or 7 consecutive sword strikes were dodged by Chao Yuan, Lu Menglei already realized something was wrong. Lu Menglei had only been learning swordsmanship for a few years, but among her peers, very few could avoid her attacks, let alone dodge so many strikes in succession. Watching Chao Yuan's calm and composed demeanor, Lu Menglei was utterly shocked. How could this guy's skills be so good? Who exactly was he? Just as Lu Menglei's mind wandered, Chao Yuan, who had been continuously retreating, suddenly stepped forward, struck the back of his hand against Lu Menglei's wrist, then lightly tapped a certain spot on her forearm with the branch, instantly knocking the bamboo sword from her hand. Whoosh! The slender branch flashed through the air like lightning, emitting a sharp whistle, and abruptly stopped beside Lu Menglei's fair neck, leaving her face extremely pale. Chao Yuan held the branch, his lips curling slightly upward. You lost, senior. Lu Menglei hadn't yet recovered from that lightning-fast strike. She stared blankly at the man before her and after a long while, suddenly stepped back, looking at her knocked-away bamboo sword in disbelief. How did you do that? Who exactly are you? I told you I'm a new philosophy student. That's not what I meant. Lu Minglei's eyes were incredibly bright as she looked at Chao Yuan like he was a rare treasure. She rushed over to him, grabbed his hand and examined it carefully. You've studied swordsmanship, haven't you? Your hands have thick calluses either from using a sword or a knife. You're definitely not an ordinary philosophy student. Feeling the delicate warmth transmitted through his palm, Chao Yuan coughed lightly. I just learned a little when I was young. Lu Menglei also realized the awkwardness and immediately released Chao Yuan's hand, her cheeks heating up slightly, but she still stared into his eyes, her gaze gradually becoming passionate. The Kendo Club had truly found a treasure. Again, Lu Menglei wasn't defeated by one failure. She quickly picked up the bamboo sword from the ground, assumed a battle stance, her slightly flushed face returning to normal, filled with seriousness. All right. Lu Menglei let out a light shout, using all her strength and charged forward again. Crossed the hallway. Always bullying the young lady. Jiang Er floated in the air, sticking her tongue out at Chao Yuan on the training field. He's already holding back a lot, otherwise even with just a branch, Lu Menglei wouldn't last a single move. Lin Chia watched the two on the training field with a smile, finding it amusing. Speaking of which, this Lu Menglei has good skills and temperament, she's good material for a night watchman. It would be perfect if she had a forbidden domain. And Qingyu pushed up his glasses and said. Chao Yuan wouldn't agree. Lin Chia shook his head. What man would want the girl he likes to put herself in danger? That's true. Time passed bit by bit, and by the time Lu Menglei and Chao Yuan finished their sparring, it was nearly 12 o'clock. As the lights in the training field turned off, the two walked out of the room and Lin Chia and the others who had been watching the match for 2 hours, finally regained their spirits. Late at night with no one on the road, a junior escorting a senior back to the dormitory makes perfect sense. And Qingyu couldn't help but applaud Chao Yuan. If the dormitory happened to close its doors right now, preventing her from returning, that would be even more perfect. Unfortunately, Beijing University dormitories have no curfew, you can enter no matter what time you return. Jiang Er, who was thoroughly familiar with Beijing University's regulations, sighed with some regret, wearing an expression of having missed a good show. And Qingyu pondered for a moment. I feel like if they just go back like this, wouldn't it be a waste? What do you mean? Look, after that exchange just now, Lu Menglei already admires Chao Yuan. I think we should strike while the iron is hot, and let Chao Yuan transform her admiration into a sense of security. A sense of security? How do we do that? Lin Chia rubbed his chin with one hand as if thinking of something, his gaze drifting toward a teaching building shrouded in darkness not far away, a smile curling at the corner of his mouth. I have an idea. Time flies, it's already so late. Lu Menglei carried the bamboo sword on her back, looking at the empty road ahead. Several street lamps were scattered on both sides of the road, and under the dim light, the entire campus was deathly quiet. It's already past 12. Chao Yuan checked the time and asked casually, what time is the dormitory curfew? Curfew? Beijing University dormitories don't have a curfew. Oh. Chao Yuan's eyes couldn't hide his disappointment. Junior Chao Yuan, you live off campus, right? Lu Menglei asked as if remembering something. Yes. Chao Yuan nodded slightly. The way to the campus exit and your dormitory is in the same direction, so I'll walk you back. Is it the same direction? Isn't it? Anyway, I'm a bit tired from exercising just now, I'd like to take a walk. All right. Lu Menglei looked at Chao Yuan suspiciously, her expression somewhat strange. Lu Menglei and Chao Yuan walked side by side on the small path, neither speaking. Under the dim street lights, their shadows overlapped, and the air suddenly fell into a subtle silence. After some time, Lu Menglei bit her lip and took the initiative to speak. Junior Chao Yuan. Did you know that I'm divorced? I know. Chow Yuan's straightforward nod made Lu Menglei pause for a moment. She gave Chow Yuan a complicated look. Sai, it's good that you know. They fell into silence again. Meow. Just then a small figure suddenly emerged from a side path, biting Lu Menglei's small bag like lightning and forcefully pulling it away. The cat appeared so suddenly that Lu Menglei didn't react in time. She turned her head in astonishment to see a black cat holding her bag in its mouth, standing at the edge of a flower bed, turning to dash toward a teaching building in the darkness. "My bag!" Lu Menglei called out anxiously and immediately followed. Chow Yuan stood in place, looking suspiciously at the departing cat shadow, his expression somewhat peculiar. He looked around, then hurried after Lu Menglei. Although Lu Menglei was fast, she was no match for the agile cat. She chased the black cat all the way to a dark teaching building, where the black shadow flashed along the outer wall's pipes to the 6th floor, disappearing behind a window. Lu Menglei stood panting at the foot of the teaching building, about to pursue, when she suddenly stopped. She stared at the building before her as if remembering something, her expression becoming somewhat flustered as she murmured, "Oh no, this building is... What's wrong?" Chow Yuan followed from behind, saw Lu Menglei's strange expression and asked proactively, "This is Building 5. Haven't you heard the legend about this place?" Legend? Lu Menglei told the story of room 609 in Building 5, and as she spoke her face grew increasingly pale. She looked around and felt chills all over her body. Sometimes the person telling a ghost story becomes more immersed in it than the listener. She even felt the surroundings growing cold. Chow Yuan glanced suspiciously at the building. "It's just a horror story, no need to take it seriously. I'll accompany you there." "Do we really have to go?" Lu Menglei hesitated. "But this rumor is very real. Almost everyone at Beijing University knows that this teaching building is forbidden at night." "Forbidden? I want to see what's so forbidden about it." Chow Yuan chuckled and strode toward the dim entrance of the teaching building, his silhouette under the streetlight appearing as mighty as a giant. Seeing this, Lu Menglei gritted her teeth and followed closely behind Chow Yuan. Remember the website. Although this teaching building was only 6 floors, it covered a large area. Chow Yuan walked into the spacious first-floor hall and looked up to see corridors stacked layer upon layer, appearing like an inverted layered abyss in the dark environment. "Where's the light switch?" Chow Yuan asked. "I remember. It should be in that corner." Lu Menglei stayed close behind Chow Yuan, looking at the dark and deathly quiet interior of the teaching building. The images she had just imagined flooded back, making her palms sweat with nervousness. She pointed in a certain direction and spoke in a lowered voice, as if afraid of waking something in the darkness. Chow Yuan followed her direction, walked to a wall in the hall, and after feeling around for a moment finally found the button. Click. The button was pressed but no lights came on. The entire teaching building remained in darkness. Chow Yuan raised his eyebrows in surprise. "Are the lights broken?" "They shouldn't be. When I passed by around 7 p.m. tonight, all the lights were on." In the darkness, Lu Menglei's face grew even paler. "Maybe we should leave." "Don't worry, nothing will happen while I'm here." Chow Yuan spoke calmly. Though his voice wasn't loud, it carried a strange power that somewhat calmed Lu Menglei's pounding heart. Chow Yuan reached into his pocket and took out his phone, turning on the flashlight. The white light illuminated a small area in front of them. "Turn on your phone flashlight too." My phone is in my bag, which was taken by the cat." Chow Yuan sighed. "One is enough." "Which floor did you see the cat go to?" "The 6th floor." Lu Menglei paused. "That's the floor from the legend. Is there a direct elevator?" "Yes." Under Lu Menglei's guidance, Chow Yuan found the direct elevator, but like the lights, the elevator seemed to have lost power and showed no response. This whole area must have lost power. "Remember to stay close to me. Wherever I go you follow." Chow Yuan said solemnly, holding the flashlight. The horror legend, the unexplained power outage, the endless darkness. These things continuously eroded Lu Menglei's courage. Though she had a strong personality, she was still a girl with an innate fear of such things. Seeing Chow Yuan step away, she instinctively reached out and held onto his arm. Feeling a soft touch on his arm, Chow Yuan's body trembled imperceptibly, then continued walking as if nothing had happened. In the darkness, the corners of his mouth gradually turned upward. He's secretly smiling. In a certain dark area of the hall, the figures of Lin Qier and his two companions slowly emerged. He looked in the direction the pair had gone and spoke softly. Indeed, the unknown and fear are catalysts for promoting feelings. And Qingyu smiled and said, "Qier, did you already know about the legend of this teaching building? I heard about it from a friend on my first day here. Didn't expect we'd use it now. Do you think Chow Yuan knows we're helping him? He probably has some idea. The way Zhang Er possessed that black cat to grab the bag was too coincidental. I've cut off all the power. What should we do next?" Zhang Er's ghost-like figure emerged from the wall, her voice coming through the Bluetooth earpiece. "Where did you put the bag?" "In the drawer of the second desk from the right in the last row of classroom 609. "Good." Lin Chia seemed to remember something. "By the way, did you notice anything strange in that classroom?" Zhang Er thought carefully. "No, it's just an ordinary classroom." Lin Chia nodded. Actually, the most effective method now would be for Zhang Er to scare Lu Menglei a bit. But I'm afraid that's too direct. Chow Yuan might not react in time, and Lu Menglei might faint on the spot, Lin Chia said while thinking. "Indeed, there's no need to go that far," and Qingyu nodded. With Zhang Er's current appearance, she was the spitting image of a female ghost in white. If she suddenly appeared before Lu Menglei, the current slightly scary atmosphere with a hint of romance would likely turn into The Ring. It's a pity that room 609 doesn't actually have anything supernatural, Zhang Er sighed. Just going to retrieve the bag and leave feels a bit anticlimactic. Lu Menglei is just an ordinary human girl. The current situation is already pushing her limits, Lin Chia said, watching the two figures climbing the stairs. We've done what we can. Now it's up to Chow Yuan. In the pale light of the phone, the dim steps passed one after another beneath their feet, and the dull footsteps echoed in the dead silence of the teaching building. Lu Menglei clung tightly to Chow Yuan's arm, not daring to look around, afraid that something terrible might suddenly appear. What floor are we on now?" "Third floor," Chow Yuan answered after shining his flashlight on the stairway sign. But I feel like we've climbed at least 5 or 6 flights of stairs." Lu Menglei's face grew increasingly pale. "Chow Yuan, are we experiencing a ghost loop?" As she said the words ghost loop, Lu Menglei's voice trembled. She held on to Chow Yuan even tighter because she distinctly remembered climbing many steps. Chow Yuan paused for a moment, then spoke again. "Oh, sorry, I mistook 5 for 3. We're on the 5th floor." Lu Menglei was so angry she gritted her teeth. She pinched a piece of flesh on Chow Yuan's arm and twisted it 180 degrees, saying irritably, "At a time like this, you're still joking with me." Chow Yuan seemed completely unaffected by the pain, chuckling lightly, the corners of his mouth turning up even more. In Lu Menglei's anxious state of mind, the two of them quickly arrived at the 6th floor. The top of this teaching building had no skylights. If the 1st and 2nd floors still had some dim light coming through the glass doors, the 6th floor was pitch black, with only a few pale green emergency exit signs emitting weak light. "Did you see which classroom that cat went into?" Chow Yuan's gaze swept across the 9 classrooms on this floor. "I didn't see clearly, but it should be in one of the classrooms on the north side," Lu Menglei said uncertainly. "The north side?" Chow Yuan looked toward the north side of this floor. The closest to them was room 601, followed by classrooms with odd numbers continuing forward, 5 rooms in total. "Let's check them one by one." Chow Yuan led Lu Menglei to the door of classroom 601 and peered inside through the glass window. Dim moonlight shone in from outside, and the dark classroom was completely silent with nothing unusual. He gripped the doorknob, gently turned it, and stepped inside. It doesn't seem to be on the floor. Maybe it's in the desk drawers. Should we split up to search? Chow Yuan suggested. No, don't split up. Lu Menglei held Chow Yuan's arm tighter and firmly said, I'll search with you. Chow Yuan raised an eyebrow and naturally wouldn't refuse. He led her to search from the first row of desks to the back, but after turning the entire classroom upside down, there was still no sign of the handbag. Looks like it's not in this room. Let's go to the next one. Chow Yuan led Lu Menglei to search all the classrooms on the north side of the 6th floor in sequence. 601, 603, 605, 607. By the time they walked out of the second-to-last classroom, Lu Menglei's face had become quite pale. It seems it should be in 609. Do we really have to go in there? Lu Menglei looked at the classroom in the darkest corner and recalled the horror stories again, asking in a small voice. Don't worry with me here. Even if we encounter those monsters and ghosts, they'll only have the option to run away, Chow Yuan said with a confident chuckle. He pulled Lu Menglei to the door of classroom 609 and habitually looked inside through the small glass window, then suddenly froze in place. What's wrong? Lu Menglei stood behind Chow Yuan, unable to see through the window, and asked in confusion. She leaned forward slightly, her gaze catching what was inside, and her whole body suddenly trembled. This classroom, located in the most remote corner of Building 5, had almost no light coming in from outside. The only light source was the emergency exit sign at the back of the classroom. But now in this dark classroom, beams of light were emanating from the desks, some like flashlights, some like lanterns. It was as if the dark classroom was already filled with people. Lu Menglei's body began to tremble slightly, and she almost buried herself in Chow Yuan's arms. Looking at this supernatural scene before her, she opened her mouth but couldn't say a word. So it's actually true. Chow Yuan recalled the story Lu Menglei had just told him and frowned slightly. Throughout his journey he had seen all sorts of things, but this kind of genuine ghost and supernatural event was truly a first. The key was that Chow Yuan hadn't detected any trace of mysterious aura, which meant those inside weren't monsters from rural legends, but real remnant souls. Meanwhile, on the other side of the hallway, why did they stop moving? Jiang Er asked in confusion, seeing the two suddenly freeze at the classroom door. Lin Chia was also puzzled. He extended his spiritual force into the classroom, but it was completely empty with nothing inside. Something's not right, and Qingyu pointed at Lu Menglei, who was now hiding in Chow Yuan's arms. Her reaction is too intense. They must have seen something. You all wait here, I'll go check it out. After thinking for a moment, Lin Chia transformed into a shadow and slipped into the darkness, heading directly toward classroom 609. Just as he floated past the light well between two corridors, he seemed to sense something and suddenly turned to look at the lobby on the first floor. At this time, someone else is coming? A figure carrying a plastic bag pushed open the door of the teaching building. It was a young woman in her mid-20s wearing casual clothes and sneakers. She had an ID card hanging around her neck, and from the text on it she was the building manager of Beijing University's comprehensive building. After entering the building, the woman walked straight toward the elevator, but then discovered it was out of power. After standing there for a moment, she began walking toward the stairs. Just then, from the corner of her eye, she caught the faint light from Chow Yuan's phone flashlight at the door of classroom 609 on the 6th floor, and suddenly shouted, "Who's there?" "Chow Jr. Chow Yung. Let's leave quickly." Lu Menglei finally came to her senses and pulled at Chow Yuan's hand, constantly trying to back away. "That legend is real. If we go in, we'll be haunted." Chow Yuan calmly shook his head. "Don't worry with me here, no one can haunt you. I want to see who's playing these ghostly tricks." You brought your bamboo sword, right? I did, it's behind me. But a bamboo sword can't kill ghosts. It's good that you brought it. Chao Yuan gripped Lu Minglei's cold, sweaty hand and pushed the door open. A crisp creaking sound echoed throughout the 6th floor. Hearing this sound, those shadows with flashlights in classroom 609 suddenly turned their heads. Seeing the fierce-looking Chao Yuan standing at the door with Lu Minglei, they simultaneously extinguished their lights and quickly darted toward the dark edges of the classroom. Several figures flew directly toward the two. Lu Minglei let out a cry and tightly closed her eyes. Seeing these figures daring to rush toward him, Chao Yuan snorted coldly and quickly reached for his bamboo sword. Just then a voice appeared by his ear. Your forbidden domain makes too much noise. Let me handle this. Hearing this voice, Chao Yuan's hand, which was about to touch the bamboo sword, paused in midair. A figure stepped out from the darkness, and the next moment, a pair of eyes like golden furnaces suddenly ignited in the darkness. Terrifying spiritual power poured out. With the expansion of mortal divine domain, a crisp explosion sounded from within the classroom as if something had shattered. Those shadows floating toward Chao Yuan, sensing the scorching aura emanating from Lin Chia, paused briefly before turning to rush toward the windows. But the speed of mortal divine domain was far faster than theirs. In the blink of an eye, it was about to engulf them. Stop! Just then a woman's voice suddenly rang out, and the golden waves surging from Lin Chia's body abruptly halted in midair. In this brief pause, those soul shadows in the darkness quickly floated out through one of the classroom windows and disappeared into the night sky. Seeing this, Lin Chia frowned slightly and turned his head toward the direction of the voice. The person who shouted that was none other than the woman with the teaching building manager badge that Lin Chia had just seen. She stood at the edge of the stairs on the 6th floor, breathing heavily. Her plastic bag had been torn open somewhere, creating a large hole, and several boxes of chalk had scattered on the ground, rolling down the stairs with light tapping sounds. The pale golden flames in Lin Chia's eyes gradually faded. He frowned as he looked at this woman, about to ask something, when she gritted her teeth and turned to run frantically down the stairs. Was she connected to those ghosts from earlier? This thought flashed through Lin Chia's mind, and naturally he wouldn't let this suspicious woman escape. His figure transformed into a shadow of darkness and disappeared from the spot. The woman ran wildly down the stairs. Just as she reached the 3rd floor, darkness surged like waves from the edge of the stairwell. Her pupils contracted slightly, and before she could cry out, she was instantly swallowed without a trace. The entire teaching building once again fell into dead silence. By now, Lu Minglei, who had been hiding beside Chao Yuan with a pale face, finally slowly opened her eyes. But the classroom was now completely empty, and the flickering lights from before seemed like an illusion that had never existed. Junior Chao Yuan, what just happened? Nothing happened. The light spots we saw outside the door were probably just reflections of shadows from outside on the glass. When we opened the door, there was nothing inside. Chao Yuan naturally couldn't tell her about the strange events that had just occurred, so he made up an excuse. Reflections of shadows? Lu Minglei tried to recall carefully. But I thought I saw a flash of light in front and heard a woman's voice. A car drove by on the road across from us, so of course there was light, and the voice came from outside too. Chao Yuan held her hand and spoke softly. How could there be so many supernatural things in this world? Just like what we saw earlier, we were just scaring ourselves. But the reflection on the glass, it really looked like someone was reading inside, Lu Minglei said after calming down a bit and accepting the reality before her. Chao Yuan walked into the classroom and searched around, quickly finding a bag under one of the desks. Is this it? Yes, that's it. Good that we found it, let's go. Lu Minglei looked around fearfully and followed closely behind Chao Yuan as they left the teaching building. Only when they were outside again did she breathe a long sigh of relief. Then, as if suddenly realizing something, she quickly withdrew her hand from Chao Yuan's, looking somewhat embarrassed. Junior Chaoyuan. I was too nervous just now, so. It's fine. Chao Yuan smiled gentlemanly, though this expression looked quite out of place on his face. However, to Lu Menglei at that moment it gave her a strong sense of security. Let's go, I'll walk you back. Lu Menglei naturally wouldn't refuse. The two of them walked along the dimly lit street lamps, gradually disappearing at the end of the road. The darkness slowly receded behind the teaching building. The woman, like someone who had barely managed to crawl ashore after nearly drowning, knelt on the ground, greedily breathing in air. In the hazy moonlight, a man's silhouette emerged from the darkness. Lin Chia carefully examined this young woman, his gaze lingering for a moment on her badge. Jiang Zhihua, is that your name? The woman caught her breath and stared at Lin Chia, her eyes full of wariness. Who are you? What are you trying to do sneaking into our school? I'm a student here. You're lying. Jiang Zhihua stared at him and said coldly, what kind of student has such terrifying eyes and can mysteriously bring me here? Which department are you from? Natural sciences? Or superhuman studies? No, philosophy. When Lin Chia took out his student ID, Jiang Zhihua was visibly stunned. You're really a student at Beijing University? Jiang Zhihua frowned. I thought you were like those people, all members of the Believers. Hearing the words, Believers, Lin Chia narrowed his eyes. If darkness finally comes? If what? Nothing. Not a night watcher. Yet knows about the Believers? She is indeed the administrator of the comprehensive building at Beijing University. I found her information in the internal system. Jiang Er's voice echoed in Lin Chia's Bluetooth earpiece. At the back door of the teaching building, and Qingyu was approaching in his wheelchair. Jiang Zhihua, 26 years old, once studied as an undergraduate at Beijing University, later filed for withdrawal, but somehow returned to serve as the administrator of the comprehensive building for 4 or 5 years now. In modern society, almost no one could escape Jiang Er's search. In just a few seconds, Jiang Zhihua's file had been thoroughly examined. After hearing Jiang Er's introduction, Lin Chia asked in a deep voice, where did you hear the name, Believers? 5 years ago, a group of people came to find me, asking me to join them. They called themselves Believers, but I didn't agree, so they kept hunting me down. It took me almost half a month to shake them off. Jiang Zhihua hesitated for a moment before answering truthfully. They wanted you to join them? Do you also have a forbidden domain? Forbidden domain? Jiang Zhihua seemed to not understand this term. You mean superpowers like yours? Yes. I do, but mine is far inferior to yours. Jiang Zhihua shook her head. I can communicate with certain things and control their movements in simple ways. Things like remnant souls. And Qingyu blinked and tentatively asked, you can summon spirits? Something like that. By this point, Lin Chia had basically guessed what had happened. This Jiang Zhihua must be a forbidden domain holder who hadn't been discovered by the Night Watchers. 5 years ago, when the Believers were still around, they tried to recruit her, but she didn't join and instead continued to live in society as an ordinary person. Lin Chia thoughtfully said, so, Classroom 609 and the old campus legend are all you're doing? You could say they're related to me. Jiang Zhihua anxiously looked around. Now is not the time to discuss this. Do you know what trouble you've caused? I had finally managed to get them to move within the barrier of the classroom, but then you glared with your eyes and directly broke my barrier. Now those children have escaped into the school, and it will take who knows how long to find them all. If they cause any trouble, Beijing University will be in complete chaos. Lin Chia and Qingyu exchanged glances, and the former took the initiative to reassure her. Don't worry, we'll track down those escaped remnant souls. First, tell us what exactly is going on here.